Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout as we look ahead to Game Week 28. The deadline is approaching on Saturday. It's Friday afternoon. Press conferences are done and dusted. My name is Joe, and as ever, I'm joined by Neale, Fantasy Football Scout's editor. Neale, welcome. How are you?
Hello, Joe. Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, how was yourself?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I'm preparing to make absolutely no changes to my team, even though I know that you're going to give me some updates on some of my players who may not be able to make it. But yeah,
Mm.
I don't mind. Okay, let's move on. We'll go to the first match, which is Nottingham Forest against Man City. Before we do that, just remember, do press that like button. Really helps us out. And do remember to subscribe. Keep up to date with our latest videos and podcasts as well. Also, welcome to Sting in the Tail, Jonathan, Mario, of Kurt Cronshaw, and more. Thanks so much for joining us early on. I hope we give you the team news you deserve and want. Okay, let's go. Nottingham Forest against Man City. What's the latest from Nottingham Forest?
Yeah, very little from Forest. All we got from Nuno was the usual, which he said he was assessing players. We're not aware of any injuries, actually, apart from their backup goalkeeper, Carlos Miguel, who's out with a hamstring injury. So, as far as we know, they are almost fully fit.
Okay, right, yeah. And as for Man City, oh yeah, there's more injuries there, more long-term injuries.
Yeah, and another injury at centre half as well. So, already without Akanji and Stones on the sort of medium to long term list, they have now added Nathan Ake to that.
Mm.
He has undergone surgery this week, I think, on a fractured foot. And the estimate from Pep today was 10 to 11 weeks.
Oh,
So that is nearly towards the end of the season, that is. Um, and he said for all three of those players I've just mentioned, Aki, Akanji, and Stones, they're looking at maybe the last one or two games of the season
wow.
and then probably the Club World Cup. So if you've got Kuzanov or Diaz, you're probably all right.
Yeah,
Same with Guardiola.
yeah,
Rodri's, you've probably seen him back on the grass, but City are again looking towards the end of
yeah.
the season for him for a playing return. And Oscar Bob should be back before then. He is back on the grass.
Okay.
He's had his own abortive comeback recently, but he is closer now.
Okay, rightio. Let's move on to Brighton against Fulham. Fulham always beat Brighton, but I was reminded that we beat them in the Johnston's Paint Trophy 3-2 about 40 years ago. So that's all right then. Let's
That's the
hope we
real
can
quiz. Yeah.
replicate that success. I believe it was James Virgo that scored the winning goal. What's the latest from Brighton?
Well, good news really, because Mitoma, who came off against Newcastle last weekend, I think there was some suggestions of a knee injury or something, but it turns out he's just had cramp,
Mhm.
so he is fine. He's fit to feature this weekend. Team news otherwise unchanged, mostly. So Duncan Veltman's still out, and of course Milner, Kadioglu, Evo, and Steele.
Mhm.
Matt O'Reilly is over his illness, but he's got a knee issue that they're managing. They're going to see if he can train today. And they do have one other suspension, not an injury. It's Tarek Lamptey. He was sent off for two legal offences, St James's Park last weekend, and he serves a one-match ban.
Okay, and what's the latest from Fulham?
Yeah. Oh, I knew I couldn't find it because it was yesterday. Yeah, they are without the three long-term ones. So Nelson,
Mhm.
Harry Wilson, and Kenny Tete.
Mhm.
Adama Traore, again, an FA Cup injury from last weekend. There's going to be a few of those in this presser roundup, but not a serious problem for him. He just twisted his ankle. He's already trained individually,
Okay.
and they're going to assess him to see if he can feature. And one other line of note, not an injury, but a suspension. Sasa Lukic was one of the first to reach 10 yellow cards for the season, so he now serves a two-match ban.
Okay.
I would argue that's very good news for Brighton because he's been very, very good.
I hope so. I hope we can replicate that Johnston's Paint success. I think it was Johnston's Paint anyway. Someone brilliant. Crystal Palace against Ipswich next. A lot of nervous Mateta owners wondering if he'll make it. Will he?
No, he won't. But the news is pretty positive, relatively speaking.
Hmm.
So you're not going to see him this weekend. He will sit this one out. He had 25 stitches on an ear laceration. Everyone's seen the tackle by now, if you can call it that, from the Millwall goalkeeper. But he didn't suffer any concussion. There wasn't any other injuries. So he's recovering at home. No fractures or anything like that. And the hope is that he will join Palace in the training camp in Marbella next week, and then fingers crossed, be back for the FA Cup tie against Fulham on was that late March, which precedes game week 30. Now Palace of course blank in game week 29, So he's probably only going to miss one Premier League game by the sounds of it. But he won't feature in game week 28, as everyone assumed. Will Hughes, another one to reach 10 yellow cards. He's suspended for 2 matches as well. And Riyad and Doucouré, they're out for the season with knee injuries.
Okay, and Ipswich, do they have their own fair share of injuries?
They do indeed, yes. Let me dredge up yesterday's roundup. Yeah, they do. Just 2 seconds. Bringing up those four press conferences yesterday, which was one of them. So they are. Oh, sorry, 2 seconds, Joe.
That's fine. I'll tell you what I'll do while you're having a look there. I'll just welcome
There's
see where some
yeah.
of the people in the live chat are joining us from. So Madmon is joining us from Trinidad. Arv is joining us from Trondheim, and Jonathan Baker's joining us from his local record shop. So welcome to those who are record shops or in much more glamorous places than Ipswich and South East London. What's the latest from Ipswich?
I'm back with you now. Sorry
Yeah,
about that. Yeah,
that's
I
fine.
hadn't had the Thursday roundup, and there's quite a lot of report from us, so it's important I get this right. So for starters, Twanzebe is going to be out with a hamstring injury that he sustained on Monday night in the FA Cup. He needs also a thumb surgery. If you remember, he cut his thumb in a bizarre dishwashing accident earlier this season,
Oh
and he
yeah,
needs further surgery on that. A sort of spinal tap-esque injury.
yeah.
Cameron Burgess, he is being assessed. He was another casualty of that defeat of Forest on Monday night. Calf injury for him. I'm not sure whether he's going to be out or not yet. One in, one out on the goalkeeper front. Christian Walton's back. Harry Murich is out with his niggling shoulder problem. And 3 players who are closing in on return. So Calvin Phillips has trained already, and he could be back. And McKenna said yesterday that Amari Hutchinson and Julio Enciso are not too far away. So there's going to be a decision on whether they
Okay.
can feature. There's more beyond this, hence why I had to get this article up. Connor Chaplin and Sammy Schmodix, they have suffered recurrences of previous injuries. Now, Chaplin, it doesn't seem too serious. He's working individually. But Schmodix has had to go for an ankle operation, and he's going to be out, I think, possibly until the end of the season or at the very earliest, sort of game week 36,
Okay.
37 time.
Okay.
And Wes Burns and Ogbenny, they're out long term, and so long term that they've even been taken off the squad list for the remainder of the season.
Okay. A few more people joining us in the live chat as well. FPL Hippie joining us from Hans Island. So one for the Star Wars fans there. Anders Sonny is from Denmark. He's joining us from Denmark there. And not forgetting the Nesborough contingent, Simon Walton's joining us from there. Let's move on to Liverpool against Southampton. Liverpool first, yeah. Lots of, well, I suppose not as much nervous, probably pessimistic Cody Gakpo owners wondering if he's going to start because he was unexpectedly not in the squad at all against PSG midweek. But will he be in the squad this time out?
Yeah, he aggravated an ankle issue in training, I think, before that match and didn't feature. And Arne Slot said this morning that he's yet to train since. I mean, that's only been, what's that, a day or two? He didn't train on Thursday, and they're going to see if he could train again today. So it's just a day before the game. And Slot said it was going to be a close call. So that pessimism, I think, is well placed. We're not sure if he's going to be available or not. Injuries aside, I mean, it's just the usual. I think apart from that, we didn't get any other updates. But Bradley, Gomez,
Okay.
Morton are the ones who were red flagged. Probably of more concern to most managers is rotation than injuries per se, because this match, as everyone knows, is sandwiched by the doubleheader against PSG. Delicately poised tie, 1-0 up from the first leg. And Slot was kind of, I think, laying the groundwork or preparing for some rotation in his press conference this morning, because he said, and he stressed, if I make the choice to play other players, it's because I think it's the biggest chance to win, and not just because I want to rest him for PSG. And he made similar remarks to this throughout the press conference, saying that the 2 day gap was significant. He said if it had been 3 or 4 or 5 days in between the last game and this one, I would probably have started the same 11 again. And he's very much hinting that he is going to change things, some things.
Okay.
It'll be a
Right.
wholesale 11 changes, but the likes of, you could see Elliott or Jones coming in for this, maybe Darwin, I think, up top. He's not got much choice at the back. Simicast for Robertson, perhaps. Kwanzaa, maybe at centre half, maybe at right back in Trent's place. So I would definitely be prepared uh, for some
That's right.
managed
So
minutes, definitely of some variety,
is
and have your
Bradley?
vice captains ready if you are backing Salah.
I was going to ask. So, for example, with Alexander Arnold, Bradley is still injured, still out.
Yeah, well, I think so. There was no update on
Okay.
Bradley. Well, we think he's still out. As I've just mentioned there, Kwanzaa has played at right back a bit this
Okay.
season. He's been used to relieve Alexander Arnold's legs in the second half. So it's a possibility that Kwanzaa starts at right back.
Okay.
Uh,
Rightio. And with what do you think the front three will be given that? Do you think it would be something like Darwin instead of Jota up front?
yeah, yeah.
Salah Chiesa's not going to play instead of Salah, surely.
I don't know. I mean, I think Darwin for Jota the likeliest change. I think because Jota's not long back from an injury himself, and they're sort of handling a bit more carefully. Diaz has logged lots of minutes lately as well. He could go with that formation he used in previous games where you had the Jones and Szoboszlai kind of playing up top. Uh, and Chiesa for Salah, yeah, we've yet to see Chiesa start in the league. I'm still putting Salah in the predicted lineup. He did mention later in the presser about why Elliott's not been getting these minutes. And he said, I don't think it's partly because it's Salah and Szoboszlai being so well in the places that Elliott can play. And he said, I don't think Mo was happy when I took him off 5 minutes before the end on Wednesday. And that's the reason he says, what does he say? That's why I hardly take him off. So I hope that's a good sign
They should be. They
uh,
should be. They've
for
got to. They've
Saturday.
got to
But
back him for.
I would expect managed minutes. I don't think he'll last 90. I think he'll get taken off at some point if he does start.
Yeah, I think after his hat trick, probably 70th minute, something like that. That'll do me.
Maybe.
Okay. Yeah, Southampton. Let's not forget Southampton. Um, what state are they in for Liverpool's potential B team?
Yeah, enjoy the miler here because they're not going to be back in August. So pretty good team news from Southampton's perspective, as if it's going to make much of a difference. So bar James Bray, who suffered a hamstring injury in game week 27, he says George says they've got no fresh concerns. So Walker Peters, for example, he's fine. He limped out of that defeat at Chelsea, but he's all right. Lallana's back as well after a hamstring issue. Bednar actually thinks back from muscle fatigue as well. Even Larios and Stewart, the long termers, they've been back for the under 21s in the last fortnight. So apart from Bray, who I've mentioned there, I think it's only Ryan Fraser, who again is peripheral. And even he said recently that he hopes to be back soon. So um, good news from their perspective, but I doubt it's going to make much of a difference to the scoreline.
Okay, rightio. Brentford against Aston Villa. What's the latest from Brentford?
Yeah, some significant team news here as well. Brentford get Jensen and Norgard back in the midfield. Norgard had concussion. Jensen was a adductor injury. And Sepp van den Berg, so a lot of people might have him as a 4 million defender-ish on the bench and hoping to use him in game week 29 when others blank. He will resume training next week. So there is a chance that he could be back involved at Bournemouth. Although whether he'll start or not, I think that's still in some doubt. Good news elsewhere as well. So Rita Henry's back in full training. We haven't seen him for ages. Aaron Hickey, he made his comeback for the under 21s last Friday after a year out. Another long-term absentee at fullback. And even the other three, Igor, Josh De Silva, and Gustavo Nunes, they're back running. Of course, that's some way from being a playing comeback, but pretty positive news from Brentford.
Okay, rightio. And as for Aston Villa, who are doing well in the Champions League at the moment, ahead in their first leg. So that's good news. But of course, we know what Aston Villa can be like after a Champions League game. What
Yeah.
state are they in for this?
Yeah, we know what they can be like away from home as well, which is not good in the last few months or so. Much like Brentford, almost universally positive news this press conference brought. So Pau Torres, we knew he was back. He came back on the bench in midweek, and Cash and Mings were also involved in that game against Bruges. And now Anana's close to returning, so he's trained partly this week, and he's close to being involved. So that just leaves one player, Ross Barkley, who is definitely out for the trip to Brentford.
Okay, rightio. Let's move on to Wolves against Everton. Well, not even nervous Cunha owners, just
No.
annoyed Cunha owners. He's on my bench. Some people might want to be getting rid of him. He's banned for 3 matches. It's just 3. He's not going to get any more. I mean, considering he pretty much just tried to kill someone on the pitch.
Yeah, he will get more. He'll definitely get more than 3. He's going to get a 3 match ban for violent conduct. That's the bog standard automatic ban, and he's been charged by the Football Association this week with misconduct. So this is a separate charge. and that will be at least 2 more matches on top of that. He was charged with the same offence earlier in the campaign. Will, who everyone knows is top marks on the site, is great at this sort of stuff. He did a little bit of digging. He reckons possibly a further 3 matches on top of the three he's got, because this is the second time he's been charged with the
Right.
same offence, misconduct this
Yeah.
season. So we
Yeah.
might be looking at game week 34 at the earliest for him. So we're looking at this is just hypothetical. Possibly 6 matches suspended. Definitely 3 at the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And I would say, yeah, it's going to be 5 or 6.
I think
So
that ends our relationship with Cunha.
yeah,
Has to be.
I believe so. Yeah, you're not going to. You must seriously love him if you're benching him for the next 6 games. Um, Elsewhere, though, it's good news on the injury front. So Rodrigo Gomez is fine. Agbadou is fine. He makes a difference to their defence. And Guedes is fine as well. They're all back from injury. So that just leaves the long-term ones like Mosquera, Chivomi, and Gonzalez.
Okay, righty. Oh,
Oh, one more. Sorry, one more line of note. Yeah, Matt Doherty will be assessed as well. I think he's a minor doubt.
okay, righty. Everton, latest there.
Yeah, nothing's changed really, other than getting Decoria back because he was attending the birth of his child in game week 27, and he's now available. Injury-wise, though, pretty much everyone's still out. The one who's got an outside chance is Seamus Coleman, so he's been back in training. Moyes was suggesting it might be too soon for him.
Yeah.
Broja's is on the grass as well, and they're looking at game week, 30 for him. Mangala's out for the season. And the other three, Undai, Calvert-Lewin, and McNeil, not close to a return. So again, you're looking well after the March international break for those three.
Okay, righty. J77 Lags Johnson, the live chat asks if he's going to have to go back and watch the first 15 minutes. Has he missed much? Me and Neale, we did the song and dance routine. So do go back and have a watch of that. Very interesting, especially some of the costumes we were wearing. What is happening Chelsea against Leicester? What's the latest from Chelsea?
Yeah, they've got a few players back themselves. So Wesley Fofana we saw on the bench last weekend, and he could feature from the start this time. Badiashile and Chalobah, they were back in midweek, and they both featured against Copenhagen on Thursday. Malo Gusto, he came off in that match, but he sounds like he's all right. Maresca said last night that he's probably going to be available for Sunday's game. Lavia's back in training as well, although Maresca did say he's not 100% fit yet. So that just leaves Mudrik's banned, and then Jackson and Madueke and Gui, whose name I always butcher,
Gui.
and Anselmino as well. So
Yeah.
Jackson's back running, but nothing's really changed in terms of his timeline. We're looking again at after the international break for him.
Okay, Leicester, a bit like Southampton, it's almost immaterial who they've got. They're a bunch of championship players, basically. How are their bunch of championship players for this?
Well, I mean, they're in decent fitness condition, but not up to scratch in terms of ability. So they should have everyone bar Fatawu back for this one. So he's out for the season. Koulibaly's available. It sounds like he missed out against West Ham, but he's been all right since. And even Pereira, who's been out for a long time, he's trained this week fully, and he's available for selection.
Okay, right here. Let's move on to Tottenham against Bournemouth. Great to see Dom Slanky back in Europe midweek. Assume he's going to be fit and ready for this weekend.
Back for 20 minutes, and then he hobbled off again. It sounds all right, actually. It doesn't sound too bad. He got a knee in the backside, I think Postecoglou saying. You know how sore that can be. But Postecoglou was hopeful that it will settle down pretty quickly, and he didn't even rule him out of Sunday's game. Ben Davies may also be back. I think he's missed the last 4 in all competitions. He has trained, and they're going to see how he feels. Richarlison still sidelined. Dragusin still sidelined. Kulusevski, in case you missed this news, he joined the injury list earlier this week. Likely to be out until after the March international break. A foot injury for him. And like Solanke, appearing on the bench last night, were Mickey van der Ven and Christian Romero. Neither were used as substitutes. Postecoglou said that the pitch didn't look too good in the Netherlands, so he didn't want to risk them. But they are hopefully in line to feature this weekend.
Okay, right here, and let's and as for Bournemouth as well, lots. I think Ryan Christie was the main sort of name during the week. We weren't sure whether he was going to start, and I know Bournemouth fans were quite worried about that because he's quite integral to the way they play. But yeah, what's the latest there?
Yeah, he's managing a sort of what's Araula classed as a chronic groin injury. He's playing through it at the moment, and they're just sort of managing him and monitoring him game by game. Any sort of surgery that they might have will be delayed, they think, until the summer. So I think he might actually be available, but they're just checking on him day to day. Julian Araujo, who was declared available ahead of the FA Cup last weekend, he's now taken a step back in his recovery. He's not feeling 100% according to his manager, so he remains sidelined too. Senesi, I think he's still out based on what Iraola said today, but he's the next one off the rank, we think. He was travelling to Finland last Friday to seek his surgeon's approval
Mm-hmm.
to resume training, so he could be back sooner rather than later. Adam Smith and Ennis Renal, they're both still out. Ilya Zabani, this is the final game of his 3-match ban actually, so he'll be back in game week 29. One sort of interesting-ish quote from Iraola on Evan Nielsen, who Dango Otara owners won't be glad to see back. Evan Nielsen started in the FA Cup last weekend. That was his first start back after injury. Um, Iraola said today though that these things need more time,
Ooh.
but he's training normal, he's playing normal. So let's hope that this continues. So maybe hinting that he needs a tiny bit more time before he's fully up to speed, which might give Dango a stay of execution up top. Even if he doesn't, even if Evan Nielsen does start, there's always his old role out wide for Dango to drop back into,
Yeah.
so he could still feature. Of course, they've now got Tavernier, they've got Brooks, they've got Sinistera, so there is plenty of competition out wide. So no reason to panic just yet, but Evan Nielsen is back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Dango owner, so I mean, I know I'm on borrowed time, really. So I could
Yeah,
just hope. I hope he plays or gets starts or even gets good 20 minutes. I'd take 20 minutes
yeah,
against Tottenham's defence in the final part of a match. Anyway, but yeah, I hope he does start. Manchester United against Arsenal. Yeah, Manchester United, they were drew in midweek in the cup. They're down to such bare bones that even the injury updates, you put injury updates of players I've never even heard of, and these are their
yeah,
these are their best players. So even
yeah,
the ones I really haven't heard of aren't getting a mention. But yeah, Toby Collier.
yeah. He was the only name back in midweek against Sociedad, so he
Ooh.
was the central midfielder has been playing there. Nothing much has changed by the sounds of it. So Dogu is suspended domestically. This is the second game of a 3-match ban. Mainu, Evans, Mount, Shaw, Altair, Tom Heaton, Ahmad, Martinez, they're all out. The two new concerns, Maguire and Agartia, they weren't risked
No.
on Thursday night. Amarim said he didn't know initially when asked if they would return. And then he was pushed on that question again later in the press conference and he said, I don't think so. So it weren't a serious double figures there for
Right.
Sunday. Yeah, not looking good.
Rightio. If Arsenal don't hammer them, then
Yeah.
Arteta needs to go. What's the latest from Arsenal? They've got injury problems of their own, but luckily their B squad is. I've heard of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nothing new's changed. We don't think Arteta didn't really give much in terms of team news this weekend. Um, of course, Jesus, Havertz, and Tomiyasu there for the season. Saka and Martinelli, they will be back, I think, in the next month or so. But they had yet to resume training as of Monday, so we're not expecting to see them. Lewis Skelly's available. He was serving a 1-match ban in game week 27. He then started in midweek against PSV and was hooked after 35 minutes because he run the risk of another sending off, which would have been his third of the season. So there's no injury concern there. It's just Arteta protecting him from the referee.
Okay, right, yeah. Let's move on to the final match. West Ham against Newcastle. This is on Monday night.
Yeah.
There's a lot of news from your side, Newcastle, but let's go with West Ham first as the home side.
Yeah, Kufal and Paqueta, they're back in training. Paqueta has got that looming FA hearing into his betting charges, alleged betting charges. But they're back in training anyway. Good feature. Fulkrug, he's back on the grass as well, but this match comes too soon for him. So that just leaves Somerville and Antonio. They're still out.
Okay, right, yeah. And, well, okay, this brace myself for Newcastle. Lots of
Yeah.
news from Newcastle. Lots of popular players. Lots of players will be in people's teams. Are they fit? Are they injured? Are they suspended?
Yeah, where to start? So we'll start with Lewis Hall because people will know by now that he's out for the season. He underwent surgery on his foot this week, so we'll not see him again. Sven Botman, he's gone under the knife this week as well. He's not going to be back until May, we think. 8 weeks is the timeline that Howe suggested. The cells are still out. That is it in terms of flag players, I think. But obviously, people are here for the Alexander Isak news. So both him and Trippier came off in the FA Cup match against Brighton last weekend. Both seem to be struggling. Howe said after the match that Isak was tightness and fatigue, and Trippier had a back injury. So he gave us like the hat trick, the Howe hat trick of updates here. Firstly, he dodged the question. Secondly, he said that Isak was fine. And then lastly, just while we're thinking it's all okay, he introduced an element of doubt by saying, I think, or hopefully at the end. So I'll run them through them now. The big update on Isak was he said he's fine. He was just feeling a bit fatigued, a bit tight in his body, so we withdrew him. But he's trained every day. That's the crucial bit, and he's good. Um, and then when someone asked him if he was fit to start against West Ham and then the AFL Cup final a week later, Howe said fingers crossed. And he said, what did he say? Fingers crossed he will be fine. Um, if he's fit, he'll play because that's the best way to get him into best physical condition. So
Okay.
being a little bit slippery, but
Right.
that is pretty positive news, I would think, I would argue.
Okay.
He himself has said to reporters in midweek that he's fine. So we'll take that at face value. And we think Trippier is okay as well. So it's just Lascelles, Hall, and Botman who are out injured. One new suspension, though, and that is Anthony Gordon. He's suspended for 3 matches. They were chosen not to appeal that. So he'll miss game weeks 28 and 30.
On
as
account
well
of
as
them
the cup
having
final.
eyes.
Yeah, I think
And seeing it.
that would be the most optimistic because you can get punished. I think for frivolous appeals, you can get punished further. So
Yeah.
that probably would have classed as a frivolous appeal. So he's out of the final and game weeks 28 and 30.
Okay, rightio. Okay, lots of news there. Okay, I'll try and round up as much as that as I can. I've got a picture of Isak today because he's should be back or ... maybe. But yeah, he should be. So available Bednarak. Lallana could be making a return to Anfield. But on the opposing side, Romero and Van der Ven should be available. Whether they start or not is another matter. Isak looks like he's available, probably 99.9% likely. I'm sure you're putting him in your predicted lineups to start.
I wasn't until Howe mentioned when he was asked about rotation for the FA Cup, and he emphatically said that was not going to be happening. He's going to play his best players in this game, so I think he will come back into the
Okay.
predicted 11 now.
Rightio. Matoma should be back for Brighton. Gusto, Chalobah and Fafana should be back. Norgard, Rico Henry are available for Brentford. Kufal and Paqueta available for West Ham. Questionable Solanke took a knock. Was back after injury for 20 minutes and then back off again. Gakpo's ankle is probably going to keep him out. He may get minutes though. Traore's ankle problems are going to keep him out there. Maguire and Ugarte both got knocks there for Manchester United. Christie looks like he's out, but you never know for Bournemouth, but probably out. Senesi as well, thigh problem. He was due back, but we don't know. So major doubt then. Out, there's quite a few here. Botman, knee problems, we just heard. Tunzabi, hamstring problems. Hall, foot problem, and / season over. Gordon suspended, Lamptey suspended, Lukic suspended, Hughes suspended, Cunha suspended, Dorgu suspended, Zabani suspended. A whole bunch of suspensions there for violence and just accruing 10 yellows. Mateta's not a concussion problem, it's an ear problem, which indicates he'll be back in game week 30. Ake is out for surgery for about 10 or 11 weeks there. But yeah, suspension's the order of the day. I think I've got most there.
Yeah, yes. I think so, Joe. Sounds good.
Okay, excellent. We'll be back again next week, I think. I always the deadline's changing all the time, but I think it's a Friday next week at a game week 29.
Last one for the break, yeah.
Yep. So we'll be back for that one, and good luck with the game week. Good luck everyone watching and listening. Hope you're giving the team news you want, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah. Goodbye. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.